Burnouts. What is up? We're here. We're back. We're still in the midst of the offseason. We're still many moons away from NBA basketball happening, but we do have Eurobasket right on the cusp. We're right there. I will likely be watching some of that just to keep myself entertained. Maybe I'll start dabbing into some WNBA. We'll see. Definitely before the playoffs of the WNBA, I want to watch a little bit of that just to get some basketball content out there, right? I'm not the biggest football fan in the world. I know most of you are probably more worried about football right now, and all the power to you. It's the beginning of the season. It's exciting. If you're in a fantasy league, I know you're getting ready to draft. Maybe you already done it. I'm in a fantasy league. We'll be drafting, I think, this week. So totally get it. I'm with you guys, but I'm still here. I'm still talking basketball. I'm going to make this a quick one for you all. We're going to get to all of the things surrounding Heat news, NBA news, mostly Heat today. And we're going to get you in and out real quick. You're going to be up to date. You're going to have all the talking points you need if anyone brings up Heat basketball stuff. And we're going to be going against what a lot of the Heat Twitter stuff is going on. I'm not with it. I'm against it. I feel vitriol in my veins when I read some of that stuff that's going around on X.com, the everything app. So stay tuned. We're going to get to all that stuff right now after this. Hey, we're here. Yes. Thank you for staying tuned past that intro. I'm glad you didn't just check out at the beginning and say, oh, he's not talking football, which I don't know why you'd think that if I'm the Burnout Basketball Podcast. But glad that you stayed. Glad you're still here. Glad you're listening. If we're going to be honest, there's not a lot going on, but there's enough going on to talk about, to do quickly. And we're going to do it all in a fun little segment I've developed for myself, a game in which I will play both the host and the contestant, the answeree. There's no winner here. The game itself is titled Things That Can't Happen. This is the new segment. I'm not going to explain it to you because you're smart. You can put two and two together. It's about things that can't happen. Things that I'm not going to allow to happen. First and foremost, let's just get right into it. Things that can't happen. Heat fans stressing over Haywood Highsmith. Do you hear yourselves? Haywood Highsmith? Look, I've called him the locksmith myself. I have enjoyed that nickname. I have liked his time with the Heat. But just some facts I'm going to rattle off for you guys. He is 28, turning 29 this year. He's a league average shooter. He's a good-ish defender. He plays the forward, which we have Jovic, Fontecchio, Kashad, Jaquez, Wiggins, who can all fill in on that spot. We have Kasparis, who's 6'6", Larson, who's 6'5". Point being, we have a logjam of players at that position, Jovic being one of which at the forward position, and Wiggins, who we are very excited about. Wiggins, maybe not so much for other people, but I'm somewhat excited for Wiggins. Jovic, the whole team, and some of the league in general is excited about Jovic. Fontecchio is a better player than people give him credit for. We have enough. Yes, did we trade him for nothing? Sure, pretty much. We got into the tax by trading him for nothing. And the reason we did that is because we have been in the tax, and there are penalties to staying in the tax. And if you were not competing for a championship, which the Heat, I'm sorry to tell you, if you're a listener of this pod, you should know this, the Heat are not competing for a championship this year. Unless something goes crazy, unless Hero takes the leap of leaps and Jovic becomes mini Jokic, we're not competing for a championship this year. Sorry to tell you, it's an evaluation year. We'll see what happens. But point being, we got into the tax so that when we are ready to compete, we're not paying this repeater fine. And then we can jump into the tax again once we're ready. Moving on. Things that can't happen, and this is related. Heat fans can't listen to fucking Ernie, and I'm sorry for the curse words. Ernie, for those of you who don't know, I think his Twitter name is Ernie the Man. He's Jimmy's friend, Jimmy Butler's friend. Some say he's the mouthpiece for Jimmy. I don't know if Jimmy co-signs everything he says. I don't think Jimmy's ever mentioned it, but this guy he just talks shit, man. He's an instigator, and his purpose is to piss off Heat fans because at the end of the day, he is not happy that his boy did not get the contract that him and his boy, Jimmy Butler, feel that they deserved, or he deserved, from his playtime in Miami, which totally fine that they feel that way. It's an understandable feeling, but those of you who see his tweets and react to his tweets have to know that as far as bias goes, he is the most biased person you could hear from when they're talking about the Heat. He has nothing good to say about our organization, as if our organization's never done anything good before Jimmy Butler, which is not true. So don't let this idiot, this stupidity infect your brains. Anything he says is meant to make the Heat organization look bad because he does not like the Heat organization anymore. Jimmy Butler does not play on this team. Ernie does never played for this team. So, in my opinion, he's an op. He's an enemy. I don't care what he says. I don't agree with it. So that can't happen. Another thing that can't happen that's related, we can't allow ourselves to think we know more than everyone in the front office. We can't. I said it in the first episode of this podcast that I never want to come across as someone who thinks that they know more than coaches, than players, than front office execs. And in maybe a case by case scenario, there might be instances in which I might say something maybe more insightful or that turns out to be correct that someone else in the league might have had the opposite opinion on. But more often than not, it's a guess. It's a little bit of luck. All of this stuff is ethereal, ephemeral. It's the numbers to only tell so much of the story. A lot of it just comes from watching and gut feeling and heart and things of that nature that can't be evaluated. So to think that we know more than the whole front office, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's been some stuff floating around about whether we should have traded Jimmy Butler during the summer, but all reports indicate there weren't any great packages for Jimmy Butler during the summer. And if there would have been, then we would have traded him. We also have a report from Barry Jackson, who I'm a little iffy on these days, but he is still a reliable reporter, as far as I'm aware, in the sense that a Heat source said Butler's agent, Bernie Lee, promised Miami that Butler would comport himself well last season and would never complain about not getting a contract extension. That proved to be untrue, obviously, leaving the Heat without any bargaining position at the trade deadline. In retrospect, the Heat should have sought the assurance directly from Butler last July. Okay, so we were promised by the agent, supposedly, that Jimmy Butler would comport himself. We were under that assumption. I think a lot of the Heat Nation was under that assumption. Obviously, he didn't. But regardless, we still got a first-round pick that resulted in Kasparis, who some of us are more excited than others. I'm fairly excited about him, especially as he was projected to be a top 10 pick at one point. We got Andrew Wiggins, who had a down year for us last year, but I think there's a comeback there. We're going to talk a little bit more about him later. We got Kyle Anderson, who we used in that trade to get Norman Powell. I don't know if his name is Norman or just Norm. That's besides the point. And we also got Davion Mitchell, who has a ton of value, especially on the contract that we signed him to. So overall, sure, is there a world where we maybe could have gotten more for Jimmy Butler? Maybe, but he's an older star who, as Jackson wrote, a Western Conference source said, for all of Butler's greatness, he's an acquired taste with a limited market. Can anyone disagree with that? We knew, even getting him, that he's prone to throwing fits. He can be a drama king. He's fought on the sidelines with Coach Spo, with UD. And I'm not saying this to belittle Jimmy Butler at all. I love Jimmy Butler. I love what he did for our team. And part of that energy is what made us so fun. But it can't be forgotten that this is true. For all his talent in the world, he has these things. He's also getting older, as I said, and he's injury prone at this point in his life. So I think we did fine. Could we have done a little bit better? Maybe. But we don't know. And I myself hoped that he would have comported himself well and played for us. Didn't happen. Now, next thing regarding the front office here that I'm just hoping that they know more than I do. Things that can't happen. Westbrook cannot land on the Heat. There was a recent article coming out from Bleacher Report. Westbrook is currently a free agent, or still a free agent. 4 teams that were listed as possible landing spots were the Kings, the Heat, the Knicks, and the Bucks. I like Westbrook as a player. I think he still has value that he could add to a team. I'm not saying this to take away from Westbrook's talent, even though obviously he's older at this point in his life. He played well with the Nuggets. I do think that Jokic raises the floor of any player he plays with, so that's part of it. But he's just not what we need. We have guards. We have Kasparis. We have Tyler Hero. We have Norm Powell. He can't shoot the ball. So, and we've always had issues with spacing. Well, I think that'll be less of an issue this year than it has in years past. I just don't think that he is the right fit for our team. Then again, relating to my last point, if the Heat, for some reason, if the front office feel that he would make an impact on this team, I'm going to trust the front office. Is there a chance that they're wrong? Sure. There's a chance that any of us are wrong with any of these things. You never know. That's part of sports. There's some things that are sure bets, but even then, miracles or anti-miracles can happen. Like a sure bet. If we got Jokic on the team, would we be a favorite? Sure, yeah. But aside from that, aside from getting an MVP on your team or an MVP caliber player, you never really know. And this is what I want to lead into the next point. Things that can't happen. And this is a longer one that I will belabor a little bit, but I'll try to zoom through. Heat fans rewriting history. Just going to state this plainly put. Our team, the Miami Heat, was in the tax during the Jimmy Butler years. So when this notion floats around that the Heat weren't willing to put a competitive roster around Butler, yet somehow we were paying the tax, we were one of the more expensive teams in the league, yet somehow we made the finals twice in 4 years, which how many other teams can say that? Not many, not most, not the greater majority of teams. Sure, we didn't win, but we still made the finals. So how bad could our team have been if we were expensive and good enough to make it to the finals? Beating the Bucks, beating Boston, beating New York. It's just crazy to me. So just strike that from your membrane. We paid for a roster to be built around Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was our best player. So when people think, a lot of the time when this comes up, people think about adding a player better than Jimmy. There weren't a lot of those players in the league at the time. And also, most of those players weren't available and weren't being traded. So, like, sure, the Kyrie thing, I think that comes up occasionally, like we should have traded for him. But people forget about how much of a toxic asset he was when everything was happening with him and the Nets and the COVID shot and the anti-Semitic comments. And yeah, he's turned it around for the most part, playing for the Mavs, but that couldn't have been predicted or assumed. Not to mention that I think Mickey Harrison is Jewish. So I could see why he, for personal reasons, maybe wouldn't want to sign off on a trade for this volatile asset. But regardless, Kyrie Irving's maybe one. Damian Lillard, we did try to trade for. And as far as all Heat Nation goes, we've all been on the same page that we put forth a good trade package. But Joe Cronin felt slighted about the situation, did not like the way that Damian Lillard and his agent and the Miami Heat were handling it, and out of spite traded him somewhere else for a different trade package that was still of some value. But we did try. And aside from the amazing trades that didn't exist, we did make trades. It just didn't work out. We traded for Kyle Lowry, who was someone who Jimmy Butler wanted. He played pretty well for us, mixed results there, but at the time it was someone worth a shot. You know, he was coming off a championship season not too long ago. We traded for Terry Rozier, who obviously has been terrible for us, but at the time was balling out for Charlotte. And I mean, not just me, but analysts around the league, people around the league, all are in awe of his downfall and how poorly he has played for us since he got here. It was a surprise. It was like almost an act of God or an act of Satan, whatever you want to call it, but he couldn't have been expected to have become a complete negative asset. At one point, he was considered a positive asset. That was just the truth. We traded for Oladipo, who I myself included with a lot of other Heat fans were excited about the potential with Oladipo, but continued to have injury issues. We got Iguodala in a trade and we went to the finals with him. Was a great asset for us, something around the edges of the roster. We got Myers Leonard. People forget about him. He spaced the floor for us as a 5, a big man who was able to shoot next to Bam. People forget that we have had centers that we've played next to Bam. We just went small more often than not because the league trended towards small ball at the time. We're now seeing a renaissance of the big man and people shifting to that. And as we are attempting to make that shift as well with someone like Ware. But at the time, small ball was in. We were maybe behind the curve on the shift to big men, but part of that shift requires having an uber talented big man, and we just didn't have one. It's not like there's a million of them around the league. Another thing that we can't rewrite regarding Highsmith, he was in the KD trade. It was reported, widely reported. The only holdup on the KD trade was that we didn't want to trade Jovic or Ware, which you can have thoughts on that. I can understand. Or were we one KD away from being a championship contending team? Maybe. I lean towards no, especially getting rid of a lot of our future in that kind of trade. And the Heat organization has been pretty adamant about the fact that they are very high on Jovic and pretty high on Ware. Will that turn out to be true? I'm not sure. Other people around the league I've heard talk about Jovic in a positive manner and are pretty high on him too. He's had some injury issues. He's had some stuff on and off the court, but he's still very young and he still has a lot of potential according to most people. He is a big man who can dribble the ball, who can pass, who can shoot, who can play defense. If he turns out to be good as people hope he is, we have a great player on our hands. So he's 22 years old right now and he's 6'10". Let's just give him a moment. And by the way, in a friendly against Slovenia, they blew them out by like 30-something points. Jovic had 18 points, 7 rebounds in 19 minutes. Shot 8 of 10 from the floor, plus 28. They sat all the starters because of how much they were blowing them out. So this was just a friendly. Eurobasket hasn't really officially commenced. I will be watching some of it, as I mentioned earlier, but let's see. I hope he can carry that momentum. I hope he can ball out. Another note, last note on Heat fans rewriting history, things that cannot happen. Our management of assets, our mismanagement of assets, rather, that some people are talking about here. When people bring this up, they often refer to the undrafted second round picks, players that we had: Strus, Vincent, Martin, Duncan Robinson, even people have talked about. So let's just go through them one by one. Max Strus got paid. He got paid by the Cavs. Should we have paid him as much as the Cavs paid him in this past recent year? Probably not. That would have tied us up in a way that wouldn't have been beneficial to the team. He's a good player. I'm happy he got paid. He played pretty well for the Cavs, but wasn't really worth paying him, especially with how things turned out with Jimmy. And part of the reason we kept him for as long as we did rather than trade him is because Jimmy loved him. Jimmy and Max were great friends on and off the court. Moving on. Caleb Martin. It was widely reported at the time that he was fed pretty bad information from his agent regarding what his value would be around the league, and due to him not accepting the Heat's offer, he had to take a lesser offer from the Philadelphia 76ers because of the way that the offering structure works. He wasn't allowed to change his mind and sign for us again. He wanted more money from us, thought that he was worth more money. People did not pay him more money. He's actually making less than what the Heat would have paid him, and that we did offer him. And I wish he would have stayed. I really did like Caleb Martin. He was a really, really fun part of those playoff runs. But that's not our fault. This was widely reported as a regrettable decision by him. Also, how much of a difference is that really making for us? Next on the list, Gabe Vincent. He has barely played basketball. Was he good for us? Sure. Does he still have potential to make a comeback on the Lakers? Possibly. But we don't know, really, yet. He's a small guard. His defense is okay. He's a decent shooter, but it's not like there's a huge market for those kind of players. And was it worth paying him a ton of money? Like a combined $50 million between Strus, Vincent, and Martin? I don't think so. Then we'd be super locked up. We'd definitely be in the tax. And I don't know who we would trade those players for at that salary because they're not really worth it. And then last but not least, Duncan. We did try to trade Duncan. We've tried to trade him a million times. There wasn't anything that we thought was worth what he was worth, and we sent him off to get paid to go play for Detroit. It's okay. We got Simone Fontecchio out of it, who's also a decent player. It's one of those things where he's like a role player for the Pistons. So a lot of people don't know or watch, and I don't blame you. It's not like I watched a ton of Pistons games last year, but widely reported to be a pretty decent player, and people think that he's going to be decent for us. So it's not like we got nothing, and it's not like there was a ton of value for him, because if there was, we would have traded him sooner because we tried. Then, just to like put a button on this part of it, you have to realize that in the same breath that we take pride in the fact that Heat culture exists and that we get the very most out of undrafted and second round pick players, that we elevate them to a level that other teams can't. While we take pride in that, you have to understand that other teams are very aware of this. It is a known thing around the league that if you trade for a Heat role player, they might not be able to reproduce on your team. They might not be able to get to the same heights that they reached when they were under Coach Spo, who is arguably, in my opinion, not arguably, the best coach in the league. So we can't be happy about that and then complain that we didn't trade them for more. It's not a secret. Everyone knows the situation. And last but not least, because of the fact that they are undrafted or second round picks, they are on low salaries. So when you trade them for a hopefully better player, you need to get someone, you'd probably be getting someone on a higher salary because other teams don't have these undrafted coming up players. So if we were to make that trade, we need salary filler. And at the time, most of our salary was tied up in players that either were toxic assets or players that we did not want to trade. Point blank. So if there was a trade out there, we would have made it because we've made trades throughout the whole time of the Jimmy Butler era. Also, finally, we literally got Jimmy Butler for nothing when no one thought it was possible. We were able to turn Hassan Whiteside into Jimmy Butler. We know what we're doing. Our cap guy, Andy Ellisberg, is considered one of the best in the league. Sure, I like the Sleepy Pat memes too. I think they're funny. But he's got people helping him out that are running this team that know what they're doing. We got Norm Powell just now for nothing. And when we got Kevin Love from the Cavs, we pretty much got him for nothing. And he was a great asset for our team in the time that we did have him. So we'll close the button on that. We'll keep going. Things that can't happen. We can't get mad at Heroes ranking and trajectory. So recently, the Hoops Hype put out an article listing ranking their top shooting guards, top everything around the league. And Hero was ranked their sixth best shooting guard. Ahead of him, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Williams, Donovan Mitchell, and Anthony Edwards in that order, with Anthony Edwards at the top. Can we debate over the order of those players and who's better than who? Sure, maybe. But point being, I don't think Hero's better than any of those guys. I think it's pretty good where he's rated. I also think that he is continue to improve every season. I don't think this, I know this. He has continued to improve every season. So maybe there's a chance he can sneak into that top 5. I don't necessarily know because those players are pretty cemented, but maybe he can. I don't know what his ceiling is. No one knows yet, but he's been playing pretty well for us. I also thought it was funny to note that at the time that we paid Hero what we paid him, this is a few years ago, there was arguments around whether he was better than Jordan Poole, whether he was better than Shannon Sharp, now more recently better than Austin Reeves or Tyrese Maxey. So Poole was ranked 26 on this shooting guard list. Sharp was ranked 17. Reeves was ranked 9, slightly behind Hero. And Maxey wasn't on the shooting guard list. He was on the point guard list, but he was ranked 10. Different position. I know there's different players at point guard. It's a little bit more stacked, I think, in that realm because they have players like Kid Cunningham and things as a point guard, even though they're built like small forward, power forwards. But point being, a pretty good player at a pretty good ranking. We can't be mad at that. Another thing the Heat fans can't do, that we can't let happen. We can't hold our breath for Giannis or Jokic, guys. I'm sorry to tell you. Jokic, it's a 99% chance he stays with the Nuggets. I mean, I'll downgrade that to a 95% chance. Maybe as Spo and some of the Heat brass were over there watching Jovic in Serbia, and Jovic and Jokic seem to be getting along great. They seem to be being good friends. Jovic is the second best player on that team, it looks like. Maybe there was a dinner that happened. Maybe we were able to entice Jokic to come. We have, the horse capital of the world here in Florida, in Ocala. Maybe we can get Jokic with that. But chances are, I think he's staying. Giannis, sure, there's a chance. If I had to bet if he'd stay or leave, I'd say leave. But I'd take the field. I wouldn't pick any one team. There are definitely teams that have better trade offers than us. Some of those teams he wouldn't necessarily want to go to. But as we saw with Damian Lillard, we don't know if the Bucks are going to just take whatever's the best package, or if they're going to trade him somewhere he wants, and if where he wants is Miami. So, or if there's a list, and if those other places on the list have a better offer than we do. It's too soon to tell. While I would love to see either of those players, I'm practicing this for myself. I think we all should just live in the present. Let's see what we've got right now. Sure, we're not winning a chip, but there's beauty in the struggle. There's magic in the grind. Let's just enjoy what we have, see our players develop, see if Bam can take a leap, if Jovic can take a leap, if Ware can take a leap, if Kasparis turns out to be good, if Hero turns out to be even better. Let's just enjoy this season, even though we're not competing for a championship. Let's do it. Next, things we can't happen. We can't allow ourselves to count out Hawkes or Wiggins just yet. Wiggins, let's just start with him. The generally injury-free guard, he dealt with many injuries in Miami that kept him out of 15 of his 27 games. So he was traded at the trade deadline, got injured a ton, and wasn't really able to find his groove. With a full offseason on him now, being in Heat training camp, knowing his place in the roster, maybe we're able to see a revitalized Wiggins. He'll never be the Maple Jordan he was once projected to be, but it was widely accepted, widely talked about, widely known that when the Warriors won the finals with him on the roster, he was the second best player on that team throughout the playoff run. Yes, second best. Throughout that playoff run, he was more impactful than Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. Obviously, both older, yada, yada, but he was playing really well. Can he reach back to those heights? Maybe. I don't know. If anyone can get him there, it's Spo. But we will see. Point being, he barely ever misses games. He's an Iron Man. He's a small forward who brings a dynamicism to our roster that we haven't had. Plays different than how Jimmy plays. He's more of an athletic freak than Jimmy is. Jimmy's, I'm not trying to take away from Jimmy at all. This isn't about him. Point is, I'm excited for Wiggins, see what he can do. And at the very least, raise his value. So if we do trade him, maybe we get something good back. And then Hawkes, I'm just going to leave it at this. There's a reason why the sophomore slump is called the sophomore slump. He had maybe the slumpiest sophomore slumps of all sophomores ever, but that's not to say he can't bounce back. The term is there for a reason. Maybe he has a bounce back year. Last year was weird for a ton of reasons. If he can up his shooting just a little bit, just become a little bit better of a scorer, a little bit more of a threat from range, that can open up his game a ton. With the floor a bit more spaced now too, maybe that opens up his ability to get to the post and do some of that crafty footwork that he so much loves to do. We will see. I'm not fully out on Hawkes yet. I think there's still potential there. Another thing that can't happen, and I don't think this one ever would, it's just funny. I was listening to the Ringer podcast with Waz, and he was talking about how he wishes the New York Knicks would have given a grandfather offer to try to steal Spo or Kerr from their respective teams. Offer them more money than any team could ever offer because they're the Knicks and they have more money than most teams could offer. And while I understood where he was coming from, I get the message. I just want to say that there's no chance ever that we would ever let Spo go. It would be no matter how much money you were to put in front of Mickey Harrison's face, he understands that if you let Spo go for money, just for money, then what does that say about our team now? Like, you've lost all the vets, all the OGs, everyone who's ever been part of this system who has so much respect for Pat and Spo, they're not going to have respect for this organization anymore. Point blank. I wouldn't if that happened. You would lose everyone. Spo means more to this team than just about anyone. I think the only other person who could be argued who means more is Pat Riley, and obviously he's edging towards retirement. Spo is the Miami Heat. You can't let him go. There is no world in which someone calls the phone of Pat Riley and says, hey, what would it take to get Spo? The moment Spo, it's done. Hang up. Shut the fuck up. We're not talking about this. So I get what Waz was saying. And for all we know, maybe they did call. But the Heat are known also for keeping their stuff intact, keeping their stuff in-house. And maybe we just didn't leak it like some of the other teams that wanted to embarrass New York. Maybe we just, hey, that's not happening. Thank you for asking. Peace out. Bam. And we didn't say it to anybody. Maybe. Why not? Why wouldn't they have asked? And if they did, why wouldn't we have said that and just kept it closed? Because what do we gain from talking bad about New York? Whatever. Last but not least, this is going to close it out before I talk about what's firing me up and what's got me burnt out. Things that can't happen. Burnouts. Basketball fans. If you have any information related to the Terry Rozier situation and you're withholding that from the FBI, that would make you an accomplice. We cannot allow you to be brought down with him. If you have anything, you have to let them know. I'm not arguing for you to be a snitch or a narc. I'm just saying you have to watch out for yourself. And does any of this have to do with it would be nice that his roster was no longer on our salary sheets? That his, I think I said that backwards. Would any of that have to do with the fact that it would be nice that his salary would be no longer on our roster? Yeah, maybe. But hey, they have a website. They have a hotline. You can submit information anonymously. If you have any information, just saying, don't be held accountable. Don't be an accomplice. Lastly, things that are burning me out, things that's got me fired up. I'm going to make it quick so we can get out of here. Things that's got me burnt out. Medicine. I have gone to CVS 3, maybe 4 times on my bicycle, just because it's like a mile away, riding bike to go pick up my medication. Pharmacist says, hey, your doctor hasn't sent the diagnosis code. I call my doctor. They don't know what they're talking about. They say, yeah, shoot, maybe we'll send it later today. Go back, same thing, over and over and over again. And it's frustrating. Come on, man, just do the thing. The pharmacist is confused. He's like, it's a really easy thing to do. Why can't they just send it? I don't know. Whatever. What's got me fired up? What am I fired up for? To be honest, I know I'm not a football guy. I said it at the top. But I've played fantasy football for the past 2 years. My first year in fantasy football, I got second place in a league. In another year, I was in 2 leagues and I was like 7th or 8th in one of the leagues. And in the other league, I think I was like 3rd. So, I'm looking forward to another year of fantasy, see if I can recreate some of the magic, see if I can get back there just to have fun with friends. It's a good time. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate you all. I'll be still doing these weekly, trying to keep them short as long as there's not much to talk about. Just make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, do all the stuff. Thank you. Burnouts, we're out.